I think it's because when you're at zero, there's nothing to lose. I was trying everything. This isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. I got to the point where I was like, guys, if I just focus on making music and growing as an artist, this is going to provide way more value to all these things that are in my ecosystem. And it comes back to what I said right at the start. I had nothing to lose, so it was just like, go for it. Absolutely go for it, do not look back. And then I wrote this record, and then I can now feel the shift when I'm playing. There's expectation now, like you're the headline DJ. I don't think a DJ can turn up to a 20,000 capacity room and just have nothing behind him. If DJs don't go from underground to this next step, there's no room then underneath it for the new acts to come through. So do you think it's potentially underappreciated streaming?
I think it's massively underappreciated.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I've never heard someone, frame it like that. I'm grateful I can use this platform to spread my music. With all these massive venues, my prediction will be, wait, that means I'll play in Ibiza every single week.
So welcome to the House Culture Podcast, and I would like to introduce somebody that probably most people would consider a DJ as front and center of his activities. But in my mind, he's a modern day entrepreneur. He's a DJ, obviously, produces music. He's a club promoter. He runs a festival. He's a fitness enthusiast. He does podcasts, and he's the founder of a musical educational platform called Sympho. Josh Baker, welcome to the House Culture Podcast.
Best intro I've had yet, Simon, so thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Just very quickly, a common theme that I speak to, I meet lots of young people out and about still, the kind of appetite for people to be successful seems to be quite prevalent in the scene, but most people don't realise that most people that are successful have had put in 10 years or solid graft, laid solid foundations, and then there's a moment in time when it all connects. Can you tell us about the foundations that you laid over the years? When did it all start for you?
Yeah, for me it was DJing at 16 and quickly realising that something ignited when I touched them decks. I knew it was a passion of mine. Quickly realised that making music was kind of the path to become a DJ. And then when I put them two together, it was realising that actually founding some kind of night myself was the next step. So it was DJing, then producing, and then I think I was 19 when I started You and Me. And then after a few years of doing that, it was, imagine we had a festival, then that led to founding Hide and Seek. All quite rushed when I look back, but all steps now, which I'm so grateful for, like they were the kind of foundations of what I did. And yeah, it all seemed to happen on a similar trajectory, whether it's You and Me, Hide and Seek, and myself. It was all like, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. And it was almost like everything within maybe the space of 18 months just started to go like that and continues to do so. So yeah, a long 14 years it's been since I started DJing, but at the same time, it feels like it's gone by and like that.
And also, I'd check back on some of your old podcasts and whatever. You used to sell tickets for club nights in Manchester when you were a student and basically get your friends to go to Sankey's or a club like that. So in many ways, that's like in old school terms, that's like being an influencer in those times.
Yeah, good point. Never thought about it like that. That was like the bread and butter then of to get into the party scene, you would go and find a promoter and any promoter would snap your hand off. You could sell tickets. And I went to a night called Under, which is where I then met my business partner, Kurt, who's now a manager. And the promoter there was like, wait, you sold 20 tickets. You've got 20 people with you. And like back then, if you found someone that could do 20 tickets, they were like, right, get this guy in. And I was only 16 at the time. I ended up losing my fake ID on one of the first weeks I was there. And in the end, they had to sneak me in each week because I was selling that many tickets. They were like, we can't let this guy go away. I think I was doing like 50 in the end. And yeah, it was like me going back to where my local town was, about half an hour from Manchester, telling everyone, this DJ's on, here's where I need to go and see him. And I had to learn to sell and promote to them. And then it was the same kind of thing when I started my night, You and Me. So it was a random basement in Fallowfield. No one knew the club. No one knew who I was at the time, and no one knew You and Me. So it was always trying to say, like, here's why you should come, here's the tunes, check this out, listen to this, sending links out. And this, even though it may seem like You and Me is quite modern and new, like even just 14 years ago, there wasn't really like these, Instagram, I don't even know if it was there 14 years ago. It was Facebook. We had Facebook groups and all that stuff then.
MySpace.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's quite funny. So you're promoting a club, and the knowledge and the expertise and the experience that you had selling tickets to somebody else's club then helps you establish your own night. Same principles, yeah? So you're learning like your experiences as an enthusiast, and then you end up being on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, it was incremental steps. Like someone messaged me last night saying, what is the first thing you should do when you start a party? And I said, go and find a venue. Find a venue and find a date. But it's kind of from there, I said, find the venue, find the date, then decide who's playing and start spreading the word. And it's just kind of these little steps bit by bit. Like for me, it was sell some tickets to some friends, then we found a venue to do a party, then it's trying to do the same thing then, but to your own party, and just kind of build an experience over the years.
Sure. And everyone looks at the optimum of your life at the moment and the successes and whatever. I mean, there's a saying that smooth water's never made for a great sailor. So what have been your challenges? What are the hurdles that you've had to get over?
I think the main thing in the early days was trying to run before we could walk with putting on parties. You and me, I remember, I think we did like really well for the first 12 months or so. Then we had this massive vision of, okay, if we book DJ X and DJ Y at this date, at this place, the whole of Manchester are going to turn up. So we ended up going from no bookings to then putting in, like at the time, I think say like $5,000 or so, put together with business partners, and lo and behold, the thing fell flat in its face. We like lost all the money we built up over that year, and then it was like, oh, we're up against it now. And then because we'd made that jump to be trying to like book big talent and become a bigger party, we couldn't really go back. So that was one thing we really struggled with. Like after a great first year, then trying to scale it, we found to get stuck. And at the same time, it was just playing gigs myself, like trying to get that momentum going, trying to get records signed. The classic story of like no one wants to sign your tunes. So eventually it was like, right, let's start our own label on the side of the You and Me parties. We did the label. But yeah, I mean, I'm in a fortunate position where there's never been this thing where I was close to giving up or things like that. I've always been very content with the journey. I knew patience would always be the winner. I think COVID was a big thing for loads of people. Like I hate to ever go back to that, but that was something where I felt like my momentum stopped a lot. But in hindsight, I think everyone was in the same situation. Anyone that kind of chipped away at things in that period had a bit of a bounce back. But yeah, I mean, I would say I've not had like massive things where I've been like, this was a crisis moment. I've been quite lucky in a sense. It's all kept moving forward, but I think that's a lot of it down to being the mindset of just staying patient and just one foot in front of the other.
See, I think you upped your game a little bit in COVID when everybody else was going through the same issues and the same, you started your podcast. Was that already going before?
I always had a curiosity to make things online, and it was a thing I saw someone else do something similar to the podcast, and I thought, I wish I could do that. And it was like that epiphany moment of, why can't I? And then I remember the first time doing the very first video, like I remember the exact feeling of like putting my phone up against something and taking a step back. I think I did like 20 takes. And at the time it felt so uncomfortable doing it. Right. And I look back now, like I'm so grateful for that I did all them things. Even just doing conversations like this now, I'm much more confident because I've done so many, I think I did 50 podcast episodes. But yeah, that period of time was pivotal in how I've ended up here now. Like I did Syntho, which is my electronic education music platform.
That was
launched during COVID, yeah. So that just started again. Imagine 10 people signed up, 10 people signed up, another 10, another 10. Kept growing, then I realized, wait, this could be something. And that was actually something I spent way more time focusing on until maybe 2 years ago. And it's really easy to see when you look at the steps in my journey the last 2 years, you can see literally black and white when I was like, right, I need to start shifting more time to this, because I knew the bigger I got as an artist, the bigger I could help grow that. And also with Hide and Seek and You and Me, all these things, it's like, okay, well, Josh, can you do this? Can you do that? I got to the point where I was like, guys, if I just focus on making music and growing as an artist, this is going to provide way more value to all these things that are in my ecosystem than, for example, me being the guy that goes and picks up the council laminated flyers to go and stick around Capestone Hall, which Kurt will laugh about, that I did once and spent a day doing that. It got to the point where we were all like, right, guys, he needs to go and do this thing. Let's try and protect him in that space. But this is after working at it for 11 years. So it's not like anyone listening now can just go, okay, stop talking about everything. I had to kind of build to this point, but it got to a stage where Syntho, I just started hiring more people. Kurt took more responsibility off me. Hide and Seek, I kind of didn't do anything apart from directing the programming. Same with You and Me. And then I could just focus on music. And that's when quite quickly I started to write much bigger records.
Sure, and every business starts at zero. When you open your Instagram account, that doesn't seem to daunt you. The fact that that it's going to be a long haul to establish anything that you're doing, but your intuition has to be right that there's a gap in the market, and then you have to back it. You have to. I mean, how good do you think your instinct is for these opportunities?
I think what's weird, I actually like starting at zero. I think it's because when you're at zero, there's nothing to lose, and that's why it's so good for upcoming artists, upcoming producers. There's literally nothing to lose, and they're the most scary people to go up against. Because there is no stigma attached to what they're doing. Literally they can try anything, and if it fails, who cares? But when you get to a certain point, if you try and release some kind of certain album, play some kind of set, the scrutiny online, something can, come crashing down on you. And I know for a fact, I always like building things. Even now, I'm starting to do some merchandise soon. I really like the idea of that. Can we scale it to certain figures within a certain amount of time, different designs? I like the idea of building things.
I think if you from the outset go, we're going to do this, it's going to be massive, we're going to have this many followers and whatever, you put yourself under pressure. If you're just slowly accumulating followers and community and serving them it just grows organically, like you say, and then they bring their friends who bring their friends, which is what you were saying about people during lockdown with Syntho, yeah?
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of just enjoy that stuff, seeing word spread. You do kind of have to pay attention to certain metrics, which I know people complain about these days, that they don't like getting sucked into this dopamine-filled world. But there can be some pros as well, when you put some time into producing some good work and you see it's resonating with people, it can have its positive effects.
Sure. If you would say, who would be your mentors?
I think my mum, she was someone who always believed in me. Looking back, I'm like, what on earth was she listening to when I told her 1 year into Leeds Uni, I'm going to be a DJ? She must have been like, what on earth? Kurt as well, who's my business partner, manager. He was someone as well who really saw me from the start. DJs like Enzo Saragusa, he played for Yumi after 3 years. He in recent times really was one who told me, he's like, go for it. Absolutely go for it. When I started to write some bigger records, he was like, do not look back. He even told me on the phone once, he was saying how if I keep making this tune in a certain style I was doing, he said something's gonna stick. And then I wrote something to me literally 2 weeks later. It was in a time where, I wasn't aware what I'd stumbled on, this kind of formula and how I was making tunes of certain kind of bass sounds, certain synths. And he was like, just go for it, honestly. And then I wrote this record, and then, yeah.
Which record was that?
Something to Me, it was called. So that came out in 360. That was the first record that really started to cross over into streaming and radio. I think it was top 20 dance records of last year with, I think it was Mixmag. So that was the first one I did where it was people who were not necessarily house music listeners were paying attention to it, whilst also being a really big record in the dance floor scene. But yeah, I take inspiration from loads of people around me, people like yourself who have built insane things. I'm always someone who's success leaves clues, right? So listen to podcasts of people outside of this industry, founders, just trying to soak up things from all areas of life, not just music.
Sure. It's because one of your podcasts you interviewed Elijah.
That was a really sick
right.
One, yeah.
So I follow him. He's really insightful. I get loads of nuggets from him. And one of the things he put on his little yellow squares, sometimes you don't know that your mentors are your mentors. And in one of your podcasts, I've got a friend who I lived with shared a flat with, and he's a soul music encyclopedia. And he would literally be turning me onto records left and right. And I think without him being my flatmate, I might not have been, I started off as a soul DJ. That's kind of how I got to know people in the music industry. And if he hadn't have been, you need to know about this record, you need to know about this record. And in one of your podcasts, you mentioned a friend called Brandon.
Yes, he's a dude, I mentioned him on another podcast recently. He was a dude I went to school with, and he worked for Syntho. He's kind of taking a break right now. He's on his honeymoon actually in Italy. He was making tunes. You know when someone, you're like, how the hell did they ever learn to do this? There's a few people you meet in life and there's just certain things, and they just knew it straight away. He was making insane music at the age of 13 or 14. Even then, I wasn't aware. It was when I got into it from somewhere else. So we'd go to his house when we were 15. He had loads of amazing jungle records. But it was when we got to when I've had some other influences, another group of friends who showed me some stuff. I then kind of went to him have you heard this, have you heard this? Then he started pulling out the most insane records he'd been collecting for years. And yeah, that was like, he was in disguise at the time, and I wasn't aware of it then, but he had a really good taste, even like fashion, like a really cool guy. And then, yeah, we ended up making tunes together, but he was someone who had like really cool taste and was digging, like collecting records when he was like 14, which is insane.
I think, a lot of people that kind of evolve and in local scenes and local areas, there's always a group.
There's always something.
There's always a group of people, and they all connect with each other, and I think that's really underplayed. Actually, I mean, it's there's a magazine just come out. It's called No Way Back, and there's an article by about Spandau Ballet. Yeah. And when Spandau Ballet did their first gigs, they did a pub in Islington, they did Scala Cinema. And then they did HMS Belfast, which is, I think, are the equivalent of like doing little pop-ups like you'll be doing now. And they just invited their friends and a few journalists. And the journalists went down and just thought, who are all these people? And the people were reacting so positively because they were all mates and they were all there for the same reason. And then the mates one ended up being a stylist, the other one ended up being a publicist, the other one ended up being a graphic designer. And it seems to me that the kind of crew that you established in Manchester with Kurt had a similar kind of ethos.
Yeah, and even like my brother, he's my videographer now, like full time, travels with me everywhere. And then our other business partners have done stuff. And also the artists, like people I've interviewed in the podcast, like Rossi. Someone commented the other day on the one with Rossi, like how inspiring it was to hear me and him talk about our projects. I think the pod was like 4 years ago. And that relates to people who ask me, kind of like mentors, they go like, how can you get to meet the DJs? I'm like, just get friends with the people who are at your level now. And then by the time one of you gets big, then it's you all rise together instead of trying to go alone and connect with the people who are in the generation before you.
Sure, and the point I'm trying to make is I think that the pathway to success, even Spandau Ballet must be 40 years ago now and whatever, the paths are still similar. The mediums are different, obviously. Obviously, you can reach more people globally now, and before it was locally, and it might take you, I don't know, you've had a 14-year journey to being where you are now. But even if you were successful with a big major record label behind you, that would be a 2 or 3 year process, But it all started at zero in a local scene, and everything grew out of that. So.
Yeah, I think the fundamentals are always the same. It's just the way you do it slightly adjusts over time.
So you met your manager, Kurt, who seems to be more than just a manager. He seems to be omnipresent in most of the things of what you do. How intrinsic is that relationship been in your trajectory as an artist?
It'll shed a tear at this. When I got my first DC-10 gig, I actually realised myself, I was like, if I couldn't share it with him, I wouldn't have wanted to do it. Like, it was almost like the whole journey. Every time you do something, you have to say to someone, like, have you seen this? I've got this. Well, he tells me actually now. It's like, by the way, this has happened. It makes the whole thing much more magical. It's someone you can trust no matter what. And they've got your best interests at heart, which I think traditionally, you hear all these stories about managers who push you to do too many gigs. They try and get more money out of you. Like, you see it all the time. And for me, it's never been that case. It's always been listening to what I want to do and always having even better than my best interest, like knowing sometimes that like that's the right thing to do, that's not the right thing to do. And thank God I listened to him, because there's sometimes a couple of years ago when gigs start to come in, there's ones you would have dreamt, like died for a couple of years ago. And he's like, honestly, this one's around the corner. And sometimes on the chessboard, if you take that move, you're not going to get to there. So he learned on the job like me. And yeah, it's helped every aspect of the business, from booking the festival, you and me. And yeah, he just gets a lot of things. So he's a rare human to find. So I'm grateful and lucky to have met him. Sure.
And what did Team Josh Baker look like when you first started out to what it looks like now?
Honestly, it's super lean still. It was he was my agent and manager until last January. So we didn't have an agent. We had like a few bits and bobs here and there. We tried out some agents, but nothing I would say that was kind of, not in a disrespectful way, nothing that really moved the needle. We tried a couple of people out who would just support us slightly, but no one who could offer real leverage in trying to grow me as an artist. The You and Me setup is me, Kurt, and then two of Kurt's business partners in some of his other ventures. So it's four of us. Same with Hide and Seek. And yeah, it was just me and him really. Now I'm with Wasserman, Jim from Wasserman, who again, when he came on board, that was when stuff really started to pick up as well. With just more strategy, kind of doing the same amount of gigs, but being more strategic in how you do it. So we did like a headline tour last year in the back half, which was a massive thing, just to prove my ticket worth to promoters and festivals this year. Because before that, we're just kind of doing gigs as they came, and there's not really any structure, and we weren't positioning ourselves right. So now it's Kurt manager, Jim agent, brother videographer / kind of TM. I've got Hannah who books all my travel. Apart from that, like, still pretty lean. Like, You and Me has no employees. Well, we've got kind of 2 freelancers who do a bit of marketing for us, but we've got no full-time staff on that. We do have George who helps out with the social media and some label stuff, but the team's still really lean. Maybe we do need to look to hire some people, but sometimes I just think like it can be too much noise. But actually, 360 have been a massive help. So I'd signed a record deal with them. Sam Hutt there, I don't know if you've met Sam before. He's like a really, really amazing operator. He's helped me a lot with A&R stuff. So Baker's Dozen, my singles label, that's in partnership with them. So they kind of help just with the A&R and just give me help with that, do the marketing, etc., which has been a really good move for me. So yeah, 360, I think, like, I mean, I can't miss anyone out. I mean, my mum, she's like the silent, the hero in all this, like always there to listen to me, help, advise. But yeah, nothing crazy. Like, I didn't sign to a major record label. 360 was obviously, like, they're really great, the guys there. They help me with whatever I need. And it's good because I've still got a lot of freedom, and because I do like YouTube, things like that, I never want kind of someone behind me trying to orchestrate how things go out online. I like the idea of just having a lot of control. Like, I do my social media myself. So yeah, sometimes it's...
you do your social
media. I know.
Yourself.
I think maybe it has to kind of wind down soon because there's a lot of noise.
But do you not think that that's why
it's kind of... It's hand in hand. I think sometimes it gets a bit too much. Like Monday, I was tired after a tour. I was like, I do not need this today, guys. You open TikTok and you see something. But then 99.9% of the time, it's all sweet. But the way the human brain works, you know, you get the odd thing that can throw you off a bit. But yeah, I think the fact to do it myself definitely helps. But there becomes a point in which it's like...
I mean, it's definitely something in your armoury that you are so engaging to camera. And you're clearly a good talker, and I think that, you know, a lot of people struggle because they're always thinking, I need to create content, and you just document what you do. Yeah. That is your content.
Yeah, I think it's the best way, to be honest. I think it's like, well, I don't do anything interesting. I'm like, well, you must do something. And I'll honestly say, if you don't do anything, that's a bit of a concern. Like, you must do something, you know.
Other than...
I get, like, you don't have to go and do runs like I do. You don't have to build a label, but you must do something. Like, you must have an interest. And I think over time, I don't know who I've heard say this, but it's like when you start to get interested in, I don't know if interest is the word, but when I started making content at the start, it's a bit mature, but then when you start to get into it more, you can kind of develop like an interest in it. And I would say now, like, I actually enjoy documenting it. Like, YouTube is something that fascinates me, just creating movies. It's almost like another art in itself. But yeah, it's hard for me to say, like, go and do this, go and do that, go and do this. But I always just say to people, you must do something. Like, just something.
Sure. So, I mean, I saw a recent podcast that you did, and then people go, aren't you just tired? And you say, tired, I've been working for this all my life and whatever. And, you know, when I was running my label, hours were ridiculous. I'd go to gigs, loads of travelling involved, and everyone would go, how, you know, I've got a family, I had 3 kids, how did you do it? And I was just like, well, I've got my job. My job's my 10 till 6, 10 till 7 and whatever. And then if I was going to go home, I'd play records, I'd go to a concert, I'd go see a DJ anyway. So that was actually my hobby and my job at the same time. It just seems to me you're doing everything that you love to do.
Yeah, I feel like someone says, like, what would you do as a job if you weren't a DJ? I'm like, well, probably a YouTube. I'd probably try and mind at that. So fortunately, it kind of ties in with the documenting thing. I would say that clip was kind of funny because it was shortly after that I went to America, Glastonbury Hideout. I did 10 shows in 10 days. I was tired then, I'll be real. When I seen that clip, I was like, oh God. Like, I think there's a nuance to that. Like, when you go and do 10 shows in 10 days and barely sleep for 10 days, like, you do get down. But I think as a whole, it's like the enthusiasm, dedication, like, gets you through that. But yeah, I think I'm really grateful that all the things that I work on now, there's nothing where I think, oh, like, you know, like, I don't want to do this today. It all ties in one way or another.
Is that because almost like everything that you're doing seems to work, and there's not many bumps, or are there bumps that people just...
Well, I think YouTube does, like YouTube, for example, like, that's been a long graph. Like, YouTube didn't really work for a lot. If you go on my TikTok, scroll to the bottom, I told Kurt in a meeting 4 or 5 years ago, my mum told me, she was like, there's TikTok, it might have been longer now. She's like, TikTok, it's all the thing, we spoke about it. in work, all this stuff. Told Kurt, I was like, right, we need to get on TikTok. We need to use this platform.
Your mum told you that?
She told me, and I was like, told Kurt, I was like, right, there's this thing called TikTok. People are using it. Like, it's a dancing app, doesn't work. Went, trust me, like this is the thing. And they dismissed it. Like, was kind of laughed about it since. So I started trying to use it, but there was no house talk at the time. There was no tech house talks. There was no way to get traction on there, but I was trying everything. I was doing memes, doing voiceovers. I'll probably just go and delete some of these, to be honest. But I tried it. I was just throwing stuff at the wall, and it just wasn't really sticking. Then over time, some people were like, well, it's only because of TikTok. But it was like I tried loads of things. It was once the tunes, TikTok did pick up over time. I'm like, now it's all over. You open the app and I can't get off it, which is kind of annoying because you almost want to brain rot on there sometimes, not watch rave videos. But yeah, that didn't work. That was failing. I was kind of like, what am I even doing posting this app? And then just slowly things start to pick up. You put tunes out, there's videos, and you just gradually, that was one which I would say I was really trying on that platform. And I see everyone trying it now. I think people overlook how many DJs are trying that platform, but it is a hard one to crack, whereas now it's kind of, for me, it's fallen into place where it just seems to work without trying. Like I put a picture on a line bike last week and got like 500,000 views. So that's not really a strategy I could say to someone, go and ride a line bike and put it in slow motion. But yeah, that didn't really work for a long time. Hide and seek, we nearly packed it in after 2 years. You and me, I rang Kurt during you know what and said, we need to change the name, this is not working. So
that's weird, right? Because one of my questions, you came up with the name You and Me. How did you come up with the name?
That was just all about trying to come up with something where it was connecting people together. Okay. We went back and forth a bit on some ideas. I can't remember exactly what now, but it just seemed to hit perfectly. You and Me. It sounds like we're almost like, is it too obvious? And we've still not quite nailed how we want to represent it visually. But for us, it was just about connecting to the dance floor with the DJs and yeah, that.
So it was deliberate. You knew it was a welcoming name for a club.
I mean, at the start, it felt almost like, is it too obvious? I think almost like anything, but it doesn't really work until it works. Sure. And yeah, it was just about connecting the people with the DJ, with the music. There's kind of many things you could look at it, but that's how I'd summarize it.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of when we relaunched Defected. We'd been going for 14 years. It was getting to our 15th anniversary, and we felt we were becoming a little bit tired, and we wanted to rebrand. And then we worked with a designer called Trevor Jackson, and he came up with the I am, you are, we are Defected, and it just brought everybody together in a positive way. And I think You and Me does that, even though you feel it's really obvious. Sometimes it needs to be really obvious, eh? Can we talk about Synfo? When did you launch it, and what was your aspirations?
Yeah, so this started after doing a lot of one-on-one lessons on Zoom during COVID. So I was doing one-on-one lessons anyway to just get some money in the bank before COVID.
Well, you were teaching people.
Yeah, teach people. But I was on maybe 8,000 Instagram followers, pretty small time, but I knew how to use Ableton pretty well. I wasn't an Ableton whiz by any means. I'm still not. People come into my studio and they were paying me by the hour, and it never crossed my mind to try and scale this, not one bit. It was just like, okay, do this, bit cash here and there. Then we got locked down. So then I started doing Zooms with people. I was like, oh, good's this? I can sit at home on my own. I can literally be sat in my boxer shorts, keep the webcam off and do a lesson. And then I was doing I maybe got to 10 lessons a week. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm telling everyone the same thing. And I realised the problems are the same. Everyone's got the same problem here. I'm telling them all the same thing. One guy went to me, there is this platform, sent me a link. They're doing these video tutorials and you can subscribe. And this was around that time I mentioned before when I thought, imagine I could do this, because I was a real podcast listener. For that time, I was reading loads, self-development, a lot of, I've always been interested in entrepreneurial stuff, startups and stuff. So I was always thinking what's that thing I could try and do? And then it took me a month from deciding I want to do this thing to setting a camera up, recording these videos. I think I did 10 tutorials, and a lot of people signed up on the first day. So I launched a subscription platform on a thing called Kartra. It was kind of like Patreon. Anyway, fast forward 18 months, I made a really solid amount of money, but I kept it all in this pot. I started investing a bit, crypto and all stuff like that on the side, but I was quite conservative considering the money I made during that time. Hired a full-time employee to edit the videos, start to market, and I started to see how this could potentially scale. And I went on holiday after Hide and Seek. I don't know what year it'll be now. I think maybe 3 years ago or so. And I was chatting to Mum once again, And I said, like, I know what could do it. This could scale. I could sell it, but I don't own the audience. I don't own the IP. I'm doing it on something else. So I was like, what if I built an app? Because I could see a fundamental problem. I was selling videos, but no way to connect with other people. And I thought, right, producers just want to talk to other producers. So I need to try and create a social media app which combines music, education, and social features. So I naively got this thing priced up from developers. If anyone's ever worked in tech or anything tech, one, it's extortionate and it's always going to take 10 times longer than you think. And it's going to be, bugs and all this kind of stuff. So fast forward now, we've got a lot of users. We've got a CEO who's exited to SoundCloud. So she started in January, called Hazel Savage. She's made a huge impact. We've got head of content called Zach, who was formerly, he is still Suat, the viral mobile DJ from a few years ago, and he still does bits now. He's an insane operator. We've got a few full-time members of staff in marketing, video editors, and the thing goes from strength to strength. I've taken a bit of a backseat operationally, still very much tied to the vision of where we're going. We're probably going to be raising in a few months. We're kind of pondering with what we actually want to do now. But it's like a full-on thing, which I hope to maybe exit one day, or who knows, maybe never exit. But the plan was to create something which is bigger than anything I could possibly do with event.
And had you previously been on a production course at all? Or?
No, never. It was one of the first movers in that space. There was other things around, but I looked at them and I was like, I know I can do this better. And now I can say there's nothing close to it on the market, because we've got our own app on phone, on computer. You can get track feedback from real humans. There's live classrooms every week. There's beginners courses. There's stuff from my favorite DJ. There's everything covered. And it still feels like the world doesn't even know about it. So it's kind of crazy. And
you seem to have made a conscious effort to get people that have a reputation and track records for making good.
That was it. That was the problem I identified. I was like, why don't I try and do something myself? But it's funny because timing was just so good for me, because I wasn't that big. I feel like if I'd been really big at the time of launching it, it would have been a bit random. And it comes back to what I said right at the start. I had nothing to lose. There was no expectations. So it was just go for it. And thank God I went for it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's my son, he did a production course, and I think he experienced something similar to you. He learnt far more from being practically in the studio, around people doing what they're doing, and then from people that just gave him advice from one-on-one. But he's fortunate because I could connect with a few people. So just flip-flopping back to, because we kind of skating around all over the place, but going back to you and me and hide and seek, how important do you feel residencies are?
Do you mean residencies as in the DJ's playing for the night, or do you mean a residency set at a club?
Well, a residency at your concept, I guess, in this case, but residence at a club.
Okay, well, I mean, for us, the dream was actually always to try and really build the thing around residence, and we tried it it was kind of to and fro, I think what I would say is, I think it's a good thing to almost seesaw. You need bookings to kind of bring you a bit further, but if you rely purely on bookings, then the business model is just never going to work, because, it's just DJs keep charging more and more and more and more. The profit gets eaten away. Ideally, you want to try and build something yourself, but without booking people, you can't really give the DJs the exposure that having someone else bigger before you can do so. So a lot of the time, for me, it helped to meet these DJs, people like Enzo, Apollonia.
So you were booking them?
Booking them, almost getting to know them, and then, can send them music, things like that. It's I can't think what the word is, but you just got to kind of give and take, basically. Sure. But I think to start a night, in England anyway, I think you have to have residents at the kind of core of it. I think maybe in different countries it's different, where there might be a bit more of a transactional aspect to booking parties. But I think in this country, I think it's really important that you have strong foundations of residents.
And the people you were booking were people who were producing and DJs that you'd go out and see if you were in Ibiza or somewhere like that. So it's a way of you getting to know them on a much
expensive way.
Yeah, but it is. But I mean, that's your investment, isn't it? And it's just and obviously, if the night's successful, it's not expensive, because hopefully you can at least break even.
Yeah, it just took us a few years to get there. I think with anything, it literally is an investment. I don't think I know any successful businesses, never mind club nights, that were profitable in the first 2 years.
Sure.
I think it's just about figuring out how to make it sustainable. Because when people say to me, I saw one recently saying about how they wish DJs me would play more grassroots venues, but I think there's a way of like, you can just get a DJ who's a few steps ahead of where your party is, get them in. It's going to be much more beneficial, you know, to network with them, see if they'll come play again, or like put the word forward for other DJs. But yeah, that's like how it really helped us. We started with smaller acts, and then as the party grew, then we started to book bigger acts, and then yeah, I think that is a good way for parties to start.
Sure, and has your booking policy agenda changed now that you're arguably the headliner?
Oh, it's a tough one. People always like the question, what do you prefer, festivals or club nights? For me, the novelty of headlining a festival is still really fresh. Like it's still, like I think people sometimes try and be too cool for school and say, oh, they're not the crap festivals, blah, 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 blah. But it is pretty fun to play a massive festival with huge production with like Creamfields of the week was 30,000 people singing my track back to me. Like that was a pretty cool experience. But booking policy, I don't think much has really changed as such. Like it's been a lot of the time, it's just places I was playing at the start a few years ago. Now I'm the one that's playing the main slot. That's probably what I would say is the most obvious thing.
I've heard you talk about being in the moment and trying to, you know, enjoy the fact that you are playing DC10, and you mentioned, you know, your manager Kurt being there to kind of complete that, you know, that ambition. Do you ever just give yourself a minute to go, fuck?
Creamfields was like the
one you just recently
did. Yeah, it was like first time doing production, so we spent basically the whole fee on production. It was a bit of a last minute job, and that was a moment where I really was like, this is insane. I think it's now people know the tracks. I can feel the energy now myself, which has taken some getting used to. Like I can now feel the shift when I'm playing, that like there's expectation now, like you're the headline DJ. You can't just turn on and just do, like, I don't know, it's weird. I think it's all in your own head, to be honest. But there was a time you feel like it could only be exceed expectations because, you know, they've heard my name, well, we'll see what he's like. Oh, that was good. Whereas now it's like, right, what's this guy going to do?
So maybe you've got this bit, I mean, there was a recent David Guetta quote where he said, people turn up to see me because they want to hear me perform my records, and I'm not a DJ anymore, I'm a performer.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. Like I always hear this kind of debate on what's what.
So if you're DJing at a festival, you get a 90-minute set and you've got an armory of all the records that you've produced and everyone's there to see, you know, you've come from underground, you've always played other people's music and whatever, so that's deep within you. It's
an interesting conversation. I think we're in a space now with electronic music, it's gone that big. It is like a show now, which I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I think just the moment we're in, who knows how long it'll last. You can see in the UK charts that there's like, I've had 2 records in the top 100 this year. I think Max Dean and Luke Dean and Lockie's tune got to like number 12, Rossi's like 18. I think it's clear to see there is a commercial appetite for these records. Yeah, I do know people want the tunes, no matter what. I get a message every time, you didn't play this one. I'm like, I played all these other ones, but I think there's a time and a place.
So would you prefer to play longer sets?
I don't think longer sets is the answer at a massive festival. I think it's better to go 90 minutes, club. Yeah, I think I'm always going to be a DJ who likes to play proper deep sets, but I'm aware enough to know there's a time and a place to do so. I think in general, places like After Cabasile in Venice, say Fabric, some of these smaller intimate clubs where there's a more kind of headsy crowd, you can go and do so. I'd say Circle Loco, for example.
Funny, you calling Fabric a smaller intimate.
Well, I know. Crazy, but it is.
No, I get it. Like it just shows how it shifted.
But it is. But I would say that it feels cozy, you know. The booth. I think it's more about how the booth's set up and like the whole way it is. You know what I mean, though, right? No. Because it's like that compared to 30,000 Creamfields. It's like night and day.
And also like clubs like Drum Sheds opening and Warehouse Projects, and I was talking about it earlier, the festivalisation of clubs now. So, you know, a lot of people when they go clubbing expect 10 DJs on the lineup and multiple rooms, and that's, I think, been the challenge for smaller clubs and more established clubs and whatever, because people are saving up to go to these, you know, and buying the tickets way in advance. So
yeah, and I saw some discussion lately about like DJs adding production, it's turning into a concert, blah, 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 blah. But I don't think a DJ can turn up to a 20,000 capacity room and just have nothing behind him. Sure. Like to keep that many people engaged, and I think to have 20,000 people there as well,
But I'd argue that's not a club.
It's not, but that's the point. It's like that's not the place to go and have a 4-hour Ricardo Lobos experience. That's to go and find that in a fab. Because even to say Ricardo played a festival, like it would be a different experience. But yeah, it's just a whole different thing. But I think it's under-recognised the positive impact that could have on the scene in a few years, because with all these massive venues, my prediction will be is that these people will then filter down to more underground club culture, like a percentage of them anyway, which will be higher because of the amount of shows. Then it will benefit everyone in general. It just gives more opportunities for everyone.
So talking about that, you did 528 in Ibiza this summer. Yeah. Daytime party. Yeah. I think you're more connected with your audience there and whatever. And then you did that amongst your DC 10 shows and Amnesia and Universe shows. And so I think that you're right. I think the scale of everything is just gone through the roof as far
as insane
globally, not just in the UK. And I actually don't think that that's going to change anytime soon. But there will be people craving things that are a little bit more underground, less obvious. The counterculture always starts.
Always.
So there's a young Josh.
I would be the guy moaning. Now, what's funny is I'm like, guys, I was you. I was slagging everything off, everything's shit. Okay. But I'm like, I don't know when it was. One day I just looked around and I was like, it's just about having a good time. Like, I realised that there was a part of me which was like almost hated on things becoming popular, hated on things becoming too well known. And then, one day I realised, I was like, wait a sec, there's kind of a reason everyone's going to see this certain DJ, because it's a great party when you go and see them.
So, I mean, the same, Chris Stussy, yourself and whatever, you all start as underground DJs.
It's just the path, and if DJs don't go from underground to this next step, there's no room then underneath it for the new acts to come through. Sure. And it needs to stay in the cycle of like new talent comes through, almost fills our boots, we go on to the next point and then the cycle goes round. And
I think that the new talent, needs to establish themselves in the way that you did to create profile, and then the DJ agency will look at you. They're the ones that can connect you with the right festivals and part of your strategy, be part of your growth. And as you say, the cycle starts again. So for the young Josh Baker that's sitting out there struggling, not knowing where to do, but looking at you and going, how can I get to that kind of level? What would be, they're at zero. So what would be your advice?
I would just say document the journey, be aware that everything always changes as well. You can't get hung up on certain ideas now. I don't think they'll be the same in say 2-3 years. Make lots of music. Utilize SoundCloud. I think SoundCloud's had a bit of a resurgence in terms of like putting previews on there, test the waters, use Bandcamp, and try not to hate, just be nice to people, give out good vibes, go to parties. Go to parties actually. The amount of people I see that kind of like just, sit on the sidelines and don't get involved, go and meet people.
Networking.
Yeah, just go and say hi to people. You don't have to like become the best friend, but just say, hi mate, I like your work, or like this tune was cool, or just have a little conversation and move on from it if you need to.
And also don't wait for things to happen. I've seen you quote saying, I was sending music out, I wasn't getting a response, so you start your own label. I saw Archie Hamilton said almost exactly the same thing, Ben Rao. It's just like, and you start the label, and that's something that you can talk about on your socials, you're in control of it. If it starts to do well, you'll get noticed, and then you'll get picked up maybe by the labels, but you're in a position then to make the decision, do I want to get picked up or could just keep...
I think Bandcamp's great for that now. I would say focus more on DJs playing your tracks. I promise everyone listening now, if you send me a great track to my promo email, I will play it. Like, end of. I think people underestimate that DJs are after bangers, especially now more than ever, because there's so much good music in circulation. Like, we all want to have slightly different sets to each other. Like, we don't want, well, not slightly, it's not the right word. We all want different sets, but you want to try and find that next bomb. So I would recommend sending a lot of music out to artists. And if one does get some steam and labels are interested, Bandcamp it.
What's the best way, do you think, to send a track to her?
Most DJs will just put their promo email every now and then, or SoundCloud inbox. I put mine on once a week, so people will see it. And if they don't see it this week, they'll see it next on SoundCloud inbox. But Bandcamp's made it really good to test the waters with no attachment. If the tune, labels will sign a great record off Bandcamp. Like, they'll go and try and clear the sample if it's easy to get steam. So I think Bandcamp's a great thing to use now. I wish I had that.
Okay, you still dig on Bandcamp?
Yeah, all the time. And half the time, I feel like I find more obscure and stuff people aren't playing on there than the promos and demos. I think just the way it is, I think a lot of demos start to sound quite similar, you know, based on trends, etc. Whereas on there, you can still find stuff that's more to my taste. I think people just kind of assume that everyone wants a certain in thing, whatever it is at any given moment, whereas Bandcamp, I can just weave my own way in and out.
And it's going back to Ibiza, I know how important that was to, you know, your early years as a DJ. I listened to your podcast where you interviewed Kurt, which I think is an amazing podcast for anyone to listen to, because it shows you how you both started as being just mates and student promoters, and then gradually you added layers and layers on top of everything that you do. And so this summer you've played all the major clubs, you've done a You and Me. That must be setting up something for 2026.
I think so. I think all roads lead in that direction. I did have the realization last week when talking about it. I was like, wait, that means I'll play in Ibiza every single week, which...
As a residency?
Yeah, if I do a residency next year. I mean, like, if that's what we end up doing, I don't know. But like, that's no joke.
Is that your ambition?
It is. I think it's the dream. I think to at least try it, you know. But I think it's a big move, you know. You can't really go back on that. I think, like, you know, for example, whichever DJ now won on the leading nights, they stopped next year with the talk of the town. Like, why have they stopped? I feel like once you start, you can't stop. So we need to get the club right, the night right, be confident on the billing. Like, that's one of the hardest things.
It's a political...
Yeah, there's going to be all sorts. So we're going to be thinking long and hard. But I think for me, it feels like it's the North Star for you and me. But yeah, I think there's other things to consider. Like, it's a big commitment. Imagine going to Ibiza, anyone listens to this every single week, then going and playing 3 or 4 shows at the weekend. So there's definitely things to consider, because right now the scene is insane. The amount of shows available to DJs, there'll be things I have to say no to next year, which will be like hard.
Yeah, sometimes saying no is what defines you.
It is, and that's what I've said. Yeah, it is. It really is.
Earlier and whatever. But you've been living in Ibiza.
This summer, yeah. I did 2 months living like a rock star, and the last 2 months living like a retired rock star. Dipping my toes in, and then just been like, no way I can do this anymore. Something I always dreamt of.
It's just a base for you, though. You haven't been there the whole time.
I'm always in and out. I think the start, though, I did like the start of summer. I think I did Amnesia opening, played it. Went to DC10 opening, Prosper played, and then I think I had like a week off or some shit. So I basically spent like 2 weeks there to begin with, and like got my money's worth, put it that way. And then, yeah, just between that, going to festivals, lots of flights. That's why I laughed about that clip of me saying, do you not get tired? Because that was shot at the end of June. And then as summer's gone on, I've really started to feel it. It just accumulates. But I've kind of put the brakes back on and been much more selective with when we celebrate, because there's always a reason to celebrate. But I've had a great time. I've actually had a better time. Now I've reined it in a bit, got a bit more sleep, got back into more training, things like that. And I learned about myself that I'm someone who needs an element of routine. I need the stimulation to my brain of conversation about business, just life in general, not being sucked into a 7-day hangover for months on end. It was fun though.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen you like jogging like close to Marina Botafoc on your. So you know, it's a great place to go jogging.
Oh, it is.
But it must be super hot in July and August.
Try and go out early. Try and go out early. That's the tip.
So I wanted to kind of talk about your music. Actually, we haven't really touched upon that. There's a perception out there, which I don't think is true at all, that people don't make money from music.
Yeah.
And and obviously people make great money if you become an established and well-known DJ. So how does a contemporary artist, what value do you put on investing time in music?
It's a good question. I mean, I have received like a significant amount of money from the releases, record deal, publishing. You and Me label itself like does well on royalties, like a significant amount of money, to be fair. It's a tough one because it's almost like it doesn't work until it does, which is really obvious, but I made nothing, and then once you do make some big tunes, sure. I do think one thing is it's always in comparison to gigs, is my guess. But even that, for me, I wouldn't say is true completely, because the money is quite a lot. So I don't.
You get the gigs because you make music.
Exactly. I think the music itself, obviously, the main driver is to get more shows, but also like Back It Up's got 20 million streams now. I think like that's no Like that's a decent amount of money just off Spotify.
Just on Spotify.
Just on Spotify.
And is 60% of the market, so you've done 33,000 million streams, sorry.
Yeah. So there's a lot of streams.
So you are, but you've said everything doesn't work until it does.
Yeah. Like I got no. I think when you look at my Spotify graph, it's insane. It was literally like, I think I was on like 1,000 streams a day until Something to Me came out, and then I got like, now I'm on like, I don't know what it's on. I think it's like 250, 300 a day. So like that as a percentage is insane.
And also streaming is see, in olden times, you'd press a record, the record would come out, it would stop selling, it would be deleted, you'd never press it again. You would never earn any money from that record for the rest of your life. With streaming, it just keeps going.
So do you think it's potentially underappreciated, streaming?
I think it's massively underappreciated. I mean, my old label, we never made any money for the first 15 years because it was constant reinvestment. Reinvestment in catalogue, reinvestment in artists, building, staff, etc. But, don't get me wrong, we were having the best time ever. And then when streaming came in, we'd already sold the records on vinyl, we'd already sold the records on CD, we'd already sold the records on downloads. So all of our investment had been made, and then streaming started to happen. And some of those classics,
came back again.
Like 20 million streams. The Noir and Hayes Around record, that's with the Solomon remix, 60 million streams on a record that we'd already done our business with.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I've never heard someone, frame it like that. But yeah, I think in general, just for artists alone, even though there is money in it, like that's not really the main concern. It's more of the awareness you get from it.
Sure, but I think, like when you put Back It Up out, did you not see the rest of your records get an...
Well, it's a bump, yeah, so I'm saying it bumps everything.
So I don't know, I can't remember how many years ago, I went to see Lizzo before anyone knew who Lizzo was. And I looked at her streaming numbers and they were like, they were nowhere. And then she put Juice out, which was like massive. And then the records that I'd looked at that had 1 million streams, they had 50 million streams. So once you become, like you were saying earlier, if you become visible as an artist, all your businesses benefit from that. If you have that one big record, all your catalogue should benefit from it. And it should just, the long tail that everyone used to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's underrated. I mean, there are obviously certain aspects people aren't a fan of, but in general, I think the payback, but I honestly think we should be, I don't know, I want to tread carefully before someone clips it, almost be slightly grateful that someone's created a business with such virality built into it. Sure. With Discover Weekly, the playlist, things like that. How I look at it is, I'm grateful I can use this platform to spread my music. Like I don't even look at the earnings from it. I actually don't. So I just think about what it does for me.
And for your fans, music, they can listen to your records on the move when they're when they're traveling, whatever the environment they are, on their phones. Yeah, I mean, exactly. That never existed when we started I've seen dramatic change in everything that we do. And dance music, Glastonbury was never a dance music festival. Yeah. It was a rock festival, and they might have the odd dance tent here and there. Now it's a dance festival.
It feels like everywhere is turning into that. Everywhere, I'm getting requests for next summer. I'm like, there, really? And they're like, yeah, they want to do it this. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's house music fever, I think.
And it's incredible to see and experience.
Coachella, you see Coachella yesterday?
I see you announced that you're playing.
Coachella, but like, big up the crew, the English artists. Like we've not taken over, so I don't know the right word, but there is a strong presence of British young DJs, which is insane. Coachella, like I put on my LinkedIn, that was something I didn't think was possible. When you hear like Coachella, that's for rappers, bands, singers, and there's now like at least 2 or 3 young British artists on every day, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, it is great to see. So just on your recording process, the Prosper record and the collaboration with Ra, how did that come about? You're so busy, you're traveling all the time. Do you make time to go in the studio and connect with them, or is it done?
Last year, it was a year ago, probably around it wasn't long ago. I've known Prosper for about 7 years because one of their school friends, Alfie Jack, was a resident in U&Me. He was like, I'm really good friends with these guys, Prosper, when they've had their first massive moment when they were like 21 or something. It's a pretty crazy story. So they've already been and done this in a previous life. And then they transitioned over to more of this sound. I started to speak to them online. I went to the Rinse FM show for them last April, and we played some tunes together. And I heard some unreleased. I was like, Jesus Christ, guys, this is sick. I would love to make a tune with you. I sent over some ideas. If you go on my TikTok, there was a clip of like the initial idea. And we got in the studio together at 360. They'd already done a song with Ra. So I think we did 2 days, or was it even one? I think we did 2 days, made some sketches, and then Ra came in the second day. We're all in the room together. It was my first time working with I worked with Bianca on My Track's Misleading or Something to Me, but I didn't really write. It's my first time experiencing writing. These two are like such talented musicians. And the tune came together. We were pretty confident it was going to be a big one. And then it came out on Circo Loco this year. But that was the one where like, yeah, we got in the room together. And even now, most of the good stuff I've done comes from like when I'm in the same room. Next Thursday, I'm doing something with Jazzy. I was meant to do something with Confidence Man yesterday. Like, I've got loads of good stuff I'm working on. But yeah, try and get in the room with the singers is like how I felt.
So
I think so. I think just whether it's the lyrics, whether it's how things are sung. I think when it's not in the same room, it can get on a line of kind of a bit too cheesy for what I want. So I find it in the room is better.
Okay, which I agree with.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
it's just, so it seems like you've already manifested all of your kind of ambitions. I'm sure that there's much more to come. But how do you see you're growing? What is your future?
Well, we touched on the Ibiza residency before. I spoke to Kurt about this yesterday. I said, like, in 5 years' time, I don't think I'd want to play 5 times a week. Like, it's been weeks this summer. I've done loads of shows. I would want to keep a balance between writing music, because that's what makes me feel like fulfilled in the creative aspect. I still want to work on businesses, whether it is still Syntho or something else, like who knows what's around the corner. But just do things, be present whilst doing so, make sure I'm enjoying it still. I like making videos, maybe take YouTube more seriously. But I always kind of mention that I just want to be present in it all as well, like not be stuck to my phone whilst doing all these things. I think when you're traveling a lot all the time, you can have your head down a lot actually, and not actually looking around you. So yeah, just do things, enjoy doing it. Hopefully have like a sustainable career in this. You know, you hear all these stories of people years ago who just drove themselves into the ground. I think with this new generation and the information we know now, there is things you can do before you get to that. So I would never want to get to that position. Maybe live in a hot country. America, I like America a lot. Right. I like America a lot. I think there's a lot of potential for artists out there. I think what we're seeing here, as most things in America, it's like 10x. It feels like there's no ceiling on anything. So maybe try and crack that Madison Square Gardens one day, who knows? I feel like there's just things there that anything can happen. So let's see.
And I think the other thing that people never realise, certainly people didn't even view DJing as a career when I started DJing in the mid-80s, let alone it being a 45-year career for some people. When you see people like Louis Vega still touring, still DJing, still being at the top of his game. And that's something to consider, because it's not just, if you're a footballer, you have to
stop. That's why it's a great job.
It's a great job.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great. Yeah, I think the late nights. Transition to just day parties over time.
But I think that's a great way to finish our chat. It's been amazing talking to you, and I think that it was for me that grew up in a very traditional music industry and whatever. I just think it's really great to see a kind of modern entrepreneur DJ with a really holistic kind of offering. Everything ties into each other, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. It means a lot from you. Cheers, mate.
Well done.